you guys, it's me, Dr. Torie. My book is officially out. And yes, it is time to talk about ACEs. You guys can find the books everywhere. However, I would encourage you guys to go to my website, VicTORIEus.com, and place your order today. Yes, it's time to talk about ACEs. Let's go, y'all.
Hello, you guys. We are here for another episode of the Victorious. I like saying, I know that. Well, guess what, you guys? I am here because I have a special guest. She's actually been asking for a while to be a guest on the podcast. And since she's reached the Big 12, I honestly think that she's ready. Korri, where you at?
Hi everyone, my name is Korri and I am 12 years old and this is my first time on the podcast. I'm so excited.
Who are you, Korri? You just said everything already.
Well, basically, I am the daughter of the founder of the Be Victorious Foundation. So right now, that's my mom. And I am excited. I am ready to share my story. I'm ready to tell you everything. I'm ready to let you guys get to know me on a different level.
What? So I just want y'all to know for the record, this is not scripted at all. This is a recording, and this is what we're going to do. Korri, have you seen the podcast before?
Plenty of time.
Really? What made you interested in watching the podcast?
So basically, I always notice your growth every time. And I always notice at the every podcast, you're so happy. You're full of joy. So, of course, why not watch it? I always go to school. I make all my friends and be like, subscribe to Be Victorious Foundation and go on YouTube.
You love your mom. That's an amazing thing. So you know what I talk about and you know what I do for real.
Yes.
And you think 12-year-olds should have this conversation.
So here's the thing. Because me as a 12-year-old, I am very mature and I can understand. But there's
Okay.
certain people currently at my school, I would grab like a small bunch of group of kids and they would probably listen. But majority, I don't think so.
Why do you think that though? Why you don't think that they don't?
Because I feel like when it comes to the maturity level, I don't really think a lot of other students would like to understand it because I don't think they would. In my opinion, based on what I believe and what I basically have observed at school. And I don't think most would really watch. I think it would be some that would love to watch, but most, I don't think they will understand the meaning and the definitions and the whole meaning of the average childhood experience.
So do you know what it means?
Yes.
What does it mean?
So to me, in my own words, I believe that average childhood experiences is like an experience that someone has had back in their past or currently, which has gave them a little bit of trauma and it has affected them in their current life in a good way.
Oh, in a good way? ACEs?
Well, it's not really in a good way, but like in a way where it's making them the person who they are today.
Interesting. Okay, because there are ACEs positive and negative. So just so you know, there are some positive experiences. And I think that's what the CDC wants to work on are the positive experiences. But you know about adverse childhood experiences. So give me an example of an adverse childhood experience you know about.
Like in my life or like the examples like uh abuse or in my life.
However you want to do it, baby. This is your episode because
So
I'm not telling you nothing.
so If I would explain the types or like ways someone could develop adverse or ACEs, I should say, is like there's different types of abuse, like physical, mental, verbal, all those type of abuse. And I feel like a lot of those type of abuse, a lot of people remember, and some of that would give them trauma. Some of that would really hurt people, and I think it should be talked about because I feel like more people should understand. Well, like why am I doing some of these things, or why don't I like this? Because there's certain things that like people have issues with, they just don't know. And I feel like talking about it will make them understand why.
And I agree with you. I agree with you. Korri, what grade are you in?
6.
And you think that and you in the 6th grade?
Yes.
So you had mentioned the ACEs that you go through. Are you comfortable in talking about the ACEs that you've been through?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So, well, most of my ACEs I didn't really understand until I was older
Okay.
because when you and my father got divorced, I was only 4 years old. I didn't know what divorce meant. I just thought, oh, daddy's probably going to go work. Daddy's probably at grandma's house because grandma's hurt or something. I didn't know what divorce meant. I thought y'all were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. I didn't know that y'all were married. So when when I was at the age, which I think was 9, when I figured out what divorce was, I was like, so when I figured out that you guys weren't together is when I noticed when my dad would drop us off, like when he would drop me off from cheer practice, and I would notice, why aren't you staying? And I remember that entire time, Kamari had to explain to me, my older sister, Kamari, she had to tell me, they're not together anymore. And I was like, so they broke up? Mommy and Daddy broke up? She was like, yes, because she had to explain it in a way I can understand. Because I was only 4. I didn't know anything about a divorce.
Okay.
So when I figured that out, I think it was like 7 or 8, don't really remember. Um, it was he dropped us off and he kept leaving, and I started crying. And I kept asking him to come back. Can you come back with us? Can you do all these things? Not knowing that like a divorce is a divorce at the time. So when finally explained, we had developed this like little transitions where he has me on Mondays. I mean, where he has us on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, and you have us on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, and mostly Saturdays. And that was like really good. And then we had to move to Texas. And the transition from Texas was easy for me because I didn't have friends that I connected to like this. I didn't know. I was so young, I barely really remembered. I didn't know what half of the things meant, so I was so young at the time. So when I got older, which is like 10, 11, 12,
Are you 12 now? You ain't that. I mean, 10, 11, 12. But okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
uh, I started to understand more and I started to talk more. And he started to start telling me more because I started to show that maturity to understand. So, um, when now here's the thing. I am very violent for some reason. It's kind of funny a little bit, but at some terms I don't have to. And when we talked about it one day, you told me and you showed me and understand, you told me your story, and you told me the reason why I may be really violent because you were. And I was like, well, that makes sense. And then you mentioned something about generational trauma. So when you mentioned generational trauma, I started to read the book way more. because I wanted to know what all this trauma is and stuff like that. By the way, everyone
Interesting.
go buy the book on VicTORIEus.com. And when I started to read the book, I'm not fully done. I'm like in the third chapter. Um, it showed me more. It showed me like what my generational trauma is. It made me understand because the first time, because you explained it to me twice. The first time I didn't understand. The second time I already read half of the book. I already read the first chapter, which is about generational trauma. I already knew like well, I understand it a little bit more. I'm so violent because you were surrounded by violence when you were younger.
Wow, Korri, so you really into the book for real?
Yes,
Really?
yes,
Hey, okay. So you think me doing the first chapter and putting addressing your generational trauma was the right thing to do?
yes.
Really? So let me share with you. And just because you have the generational trauma, it's an identifier. You don't have to be violent. Yes, I grew up around violence. Bad. Yes, you more than likely can get it from me. However, now that you know, you can do something about that, correct?
Correct. With my like issues and stuff, I found my ways like music, basketball, drawing and writing, all that type of stuff really calms me and I don't like be as violent as I am as much.
You
Cause
still beat up on your sisters, though.
I fight my sisters, but I don't do like how I used to. I'm good at play fighting. When I was
Oh.
younger, I used to just fight them and hit them as hard as I can and try to swing them and try to do all these violent things. But now that I'm older, we play fight. I don't try to actually hurt them. I don't try to actually win. I let them get their win sometimes. I don't actually try like how I used to because of those things and basically my at-home therapy that I do,
What's your at-home therapy, Corey?
music, art, and basketball.
Really? Well, that's extracurricular activity. Now, my listeners and my people that know me and follow me know that I'm heavy on extracurricular activity. So extracurricular activity helps you. Okay, interesting. So I have another question because this is interesting. I think you're amazing, of course. What would you say to kids your age that are interested in getting involved in ACEs? Because you're ACEs ambassador, correct?
Correct. So
What would
what I
you say to
would
those kids?
tell my like students and people that are my age that I would first explain to them what ACEs are and like because obviously everyone has it, no one's perfect. So when I explain to them what ACEs is, it would be like yeah, so I would try to get them to, well, they don't have to forcefully tell my story, but if they understand that they have ACEs, I think that would make more sense before going into details.
But what if kids don't know about it? They can't talk about it if they don't know about it.
So the way I would explain it, because honestly, I think the book would be a good factor in it.
Are you serious? So you think it's enough for a kid to read?
I think it would be good and educational for someone my age to read.
God bless you, my child. Because I think so too. I think it's good for anybody to read. So, I mean, to hear this from you, honestly, is good. Now, I'll be honest, I've seen you write notes and I've seen you use your book and I've seen it. So, thank you. I really do. I also see your enthusiasm with being an ambassador. I do believe that with me being older, your generation is the one that needs it because you have a mother with an illness and that's not a heavy feat for you. So what would you say to kids so they don't have so they won't go through what you've experienced, what would you say to them?
Try to stay calm because when you were going through your illness stuff, I was not calm. I was, well, I can't say that I was over exaggerating because it was very like important, but I was putting more stress on myself than it was supposed to be stressful. So I would be like, stay calm, find something that calms you. So for me, if music calms me, music calms me. If for someone else, trying on clothes or something, or reading a book, or watching TikTok, if that calms you, then do that. Don't stress yourself over over things that you can't control, over
What?
over things that like you can't honestly do too much about.
Okay, Korri. I believe it. You have proven to us that you are ready. I got a question for you. So I think I have two more questions. Do you like Be Victorious Foundation?
I love it. Be VicTORIEus Foundation because Be VicTORIEus Foundation to me is like understanding really what's going on because, and I already explained this to you, I really like how now that I'm older, I'm starting to get into more conversations, and Be VicTORIEus Foundation is helping me get into more of those conversations and me being able to understand like what is going on, what even happened in my past. Like, 'cause when I was younger, I didn't understand nothing except mommy and daddy broke up.
Wow. You think you're ready to have this conversation by yourself or with other people? I'm gonna get you ready. Thank you, Korri, for sharing. Is there anything else that you want to tell our audience? Is there anything that you want to? I will share with the audience. She's been asking for a while, and I wanted to put her to the test. And guess what? This episode is this episode, and she has done it. I think 12-year-olds and have said it because I don't think as parents we should hide these things from our students, from our kids. I think our kids really should be aware of ACEs and understand ACEs. Do you think understanding ACEs has helped you, Korri?
Yes, it helps me so much with all the questions that I had when I was younger. Because I'm being so serious. All I knew is mommy and daddy broke up. I didn't know that it was a marriage. I just thought my mommy and daddy was boyfriend and girlfriend, and uh that we just was living in the same house. I understand the full story. Um, there's still like a little bit that I have questions about, but those are easy questions. Um,
Well, make sure so this won't feel like a one-sided interview. You talk to your dad, correct? How's your relationship with your dad?
my relationship with my dad is amazing now that I'm older. When I was younger, he didn't really have the chance to develop a relationship with me. Um, because I was like a itty bitty baby when you guys divorced. So like this summer, I was able to go to Chicago with him alone, and that really developed our conversations. Like he didn't know that I was a little bit like him a little bit. Um, he didn't understand my passion for basketball. Um, is a little bit more than his.
Really?
Um, he didn't really know some of that. So when that when I went to the summer and was alone with him, it was pretty like that made our bond stronger.
Oh.
And then I
Now have
also
you? Go ahead, I'm listening.
and then I also noticed like when I was talking to Kamari also explained it to me too. He didn't have the chance to really develop that relationship when I was like a baby. So Kamari always noticed what he's always trying to do extra, which is not always like things, but like if I ask for some shoes, at least he will give me some shoes or do a little bit of something. And I feel like now, because when I first moved down here, I didn't really call him a lot. And now that we have a closer bond than we did, I call him more.
Okay. So that's your initiative. And is it working? Have you talked to your dad about how you feel about ACEs? Have you talked to him about it? Has he shared some things with you?
So I've been trying to get this, like, his side of the story out. I got a little bit out of it. Now he did explain.
You don't have to go to details, let's be clear. I just want it to be, not a one-sided conversation. You have talked to your dad about things.
I've asked him about his side of the story, like, how did you guys meet? He literally told me thing for thing of how you guys met.
It was similar, right? It wasn't two different conversations.
It was similar.
Okay. Okay.
It was just like a couple of details that were different, like what happened before you guys met.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
So, yes, that's really.
But you're content in your relationships with your parents.
I'm content with my relationships with my parents. Honestly, I have good relationships with both of my parents. It's never like a different, well, it is a little bit of a difference, but we have relationships in two different things. My relationship with my dad is basketball and like different things, like how the things we watch on TV, we kind of watch a little bit of the similar things. We watch, like this summer, I really got to know my dad on a different level than what I've always known him for, which was my daddy.
That's understandable because you're getting older. And you could tell that you're getting older because you're maturing tremendously. I don't know 12-year-olds that would actually be ready for this conversation. And I think you are doing a great job. So I want to say, as an ACEs ambassador, you actually put your information out there for people to find you. Are you sharing ACEs information on your social media, or what are you doing to get the word out about ACEs?
So honestly, the way I get the word out about ACEs is actually not on social media. Like I told you earlier, um, all I do is I be like, oh yeah, y'all know my mama got a YouTube. How about y'all subscribe to her on VicTORIEus Foundation? Oh, y'all know my mama got a podcast. How about y'all go to Spotify and SoundCloud and look at her and look her up and look up VicTORIEus Foundation podcast. Ooh, you can ask if we were even able to go back to the school and ask the person who was sitting across from me in class. I was like, I'm doing a podcast today. I'm gonna watch it all the time.
So you publicize, you support your people, you proud, huh?
Yes, I just like don't do it on the social media, on my social media accounts. I really can. I like when I did the video, I had posted on my story. I got a couple of likes near in there, but I don't do a lot of posting when it comes to ACEs.
Okay, that's fine. You don't do a lot of posting recently. Why is that? Oh, okay. No, I won't put you out there like that. I'm playing. Well, let people know again why ACEs is so important. What you told us what you've done to address your ACEs. You're aware of the ACEs categories. You told us how you learned about ACEs. You told us what ACEs are. Tell 12-year-olds, kids in high school, what do they do when they find out exactly what ACEs are? What's the next steps? What should they do?
So when you find out what ACEs are, I think you should really address it, because what happens if there's some things that you don't even know about that's going on in your life? So why not figure it out and address it? Or what happens if like something has happened in your household, and obviously there were some things where like a lot of people can't really talk about it due to parents' rules, Well, why not ask? I don't think, well, I believe and I hope that parents shouldn't have a problem because even though it's always stay in a child's place, why not ask? Like, why not explain to them, like, tell them, because it's always, well, it's not always, because for you, it's not staying in a child's place, because I can ask you about my trauma and all things that has happened in my life before my life and all and everything. But for some other families, it's stay in the child's place or whatever goes in the house stays in the house. So I feel like you should try to ask in the best ways possible and try to understand, like, because what happens if you're speaking out of term and don't know why, or doing all these things and don't know why? Try to understand to calm yourself and try to understand what you could do to make the situation better on your behalf, because some things people can't control.
Korri, I learned something from you today. So I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I think it's time for children to also have this conversation. I think I'm ready to pour into schools. I'm ready to get out there and have this conversation, especially when I have children in my household that support it. If they're already talking at school, thanks to you, I might need to step up and go ahead and go to your school. So I think I'm ready because I think that was what I was nervous about. I do a lot of trainings with the adults, but if you think that kids need to have this conversation, I'll do what I can to do that. So thank you, Korri, so much for having this conversation and proving to me that not only can we have this conversation as parents, but we can have this conversation to address it pretty much where we need to, because we do it at home. And I think it's also safe to have it in the classroom as well. So tell our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in and say goodbye.
Yes, I really appreciate being on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, baby girl. You know me, you guys. It's Dr. VicTORIEus, and I'm everywhere. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you do the things that you do in order to get yourself educated and ready to understand ACEs, because it's time to have the conversation. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye, you guys.